Alright, there we go. My room's practically one giant Easter egg thing, so doesn't surprise me after the movie I saw. Here it is. Ready Player On, as the ticket puts it. Um, so yeah, if you've seen a previous video I did where I talked about my thoughts on the book, you can go check it out. Just long story short, if you haven't seen it, well, not the movie, my review of the book, my thoughts on the book were this. It was a very mixed bag. There were things I liked, things I didn't like. There were certain elements that kind of stuck out character wise and mainly plot wise. It felt like a giant textbook of exposition, and it was kind of a bit of a slog to get through in spots. But when it got to the fun spots, it got to the fun spots, and it did its job very well. Now, with the movie, it has the advantage of improving upon things. It has the advantage of being a story, something from beginning to end. It has the ability to be a visual medium and actually working with things and tinkering with things and doing things. And I'm gonna try and make this spoiler free as I can, because I figure this is gonna get a lot of talk throughout this coming week or so. If you just want my bare minimal thoughts, it's fun. it's just, it's absolute fun. Were there problems I had with it? Yeah, but they're minimal compared to how much I enjoyed it. And if I go into some of the stuff that I didn't like too much, it would probably ruin a good bulk of the movie. So I'm going to be very, very small on the details as best as I can. Um, this is my own from pages to pictures. Oof, I wonder if James is watching this. Regardless, if you don't know what the movie is, or if you've been under a rock for the past 48 hours, here's everything you need to know in just one big cluster ball. Um, it deals with the future, and apparently everyone is connected to this giant virtual reality internet system called the Oasis, where they can do anything, be anything. Um, its creator dies, and he leaves behind this huge inheritance in the form of this massive video game. And you have to go through these three different trials and unlock these clues and puzzles in order to, win this big fortune prize. And the biggest thing of all is complete control of the internet thing that he created. So a bunch of kids are in the mix, and they pretty much try to solve the clues, play the games, and go through these levels and get to the prize at the end and win and stuff like that. In the book, it was different. It was really, really different. Um, it was all centered around the Wade Watts character and only him in general. And there were times where they did raise the stakes, a couple of spots here and there, which are not in the movie at all. Um, Again, just comparing it off from book to film, there were points when Ernest Cline's novel did have some really big risks, like actual characters getting killed in the real world. Um, but I think here that was clearly changed up, so it was, lighthearted and easy to go through. And I actually didn't mind the change. I actually thought it did add a lot more character development for certain people here and there. Um, the evil corporate villain, he's more than just an evil corporate villain, he's a cartoony corporate villain. um, I didn't mind that too much. The Sorrento character I thought was kind of interesting. I really felt like I felt there was more of him in the film than there was in the book. He really feels like a very cartoony video game kind of character, and considering the movie is video game based, it fits in with that aesthetic. So I was actually kind of fine with that. Um, for what it was. Um, a second. Sorry, I got distracted by something. Um, and the way they play the game out in the movie, very different from the book. very, very different. I'm glad they changed it up a bit, because when you see an adaptation, you expect it to be different. You expect it to be completely removed from the source, or if it needs to be close to the source, there's points where it has to for point A, point C, point B reasons. Um, just in a nutshell, this is pretty much the same way they adapted Who Framed Roger Rabbit, because it was based off a book called Who Censored Roger Rabbit, and they changed the entire universe, plot, characters, and stuff into what it was. And as interesting as the book Who Censored Roger Rabbit by Gary Wolfe was, Who Framed Roger Rabbit was an entirely different beast altogether, and it was actually really good. And that's what I think of with Ready Player One. It is so many shenanigans I'm missing out. um, that's what I think of in terms of this adaptation. It knows when to improve upon certain things. It knows when to add in certain things. It definitely dulls back on the pop culture references. That was a big concern that I had going into this, along with certain character relationships here and there. Um, I expected there to be a little more in the real world in this big dystopia, and I'm glad they changed that up quite a lot. There's definitely a lot of things here and there they do alter, and I'm gonna say it's for the best. Again, from my perspective, as someone who came off of the book and said it was okay, but it could have been better in spots. Um, the relationship between the Wade Watts character and the Artemis character, definitely an improvement. I was actually all for what they did with this one. Um, in the book, they sort of have an online relationship, and it goes all fluff up. And again, I'm trying to say all this without ruining anything. And I think here they definitely improved on that aspect, with the way they meet up and everything, and how the plot points sort of focus. They jumble certain sections of the novel around, so at least it strengthens the relationship between certain characters, so we have a chance of knowing who they are and how they're connected to the main character in a sense. Um, Scenes are shifted here and there, and I definitely think it's for the best when you're going from point A to point B. Certain things get set up in the beginning that later pay off. This is in the trailer, so I can kind of give this a little away. The Iron Giant is definitely in there, and he definitely gets a lot of great scenes, especially a little nod to Terminator 2 near the end, which is actually kind of nice. I was really surprised by how they did the final sequence. Again, not trying to spoil too much, but the battle scene itself definitely warrants a lot of rewind. Just to see the little characters and all the people that appear here and there, it's truly interesting to see how they're able to get so much involvement and just getting like little cameos of little things like, oh, here's Chucky, that's kind of cool. Oh, here's Freddy Krueger getting blasted, that's kind of neat. But even the bigger ones too, and I was really surprised with a certain cameo near the end, which I'm not going to ruin. But in this is your big clue. In the novel, they do have the big fight scene, and it's done in this giant robot, um, Japanese kind of way, and it sort of has the feeling of a Godzilla movie with giant, Gundam, Voltron kind of characters, and that's really the best way to describe it without ruining too much. It's that incredible, and it's a lot of fun. Um, when watching this movie, I sort of had to look at it in two ways. There's the entertaining way, and then there's the critical way. And in terms of the entertaining kind of way, it hit all the juicy spots. There's fun characters, there's fun environments, it's bright and vibrant. Um, when it wants to be beautiful and colorful, it will be beautiful and colorful. When it goes into these, fun places, it's a blast, it's a hothouse. there's a certain popular horror movie that they go through just to find this little gem and everything, and it feels like it goes on maybe a touch too long, but in the way they execute it and play it up and change it around, it's kind of fun. The only concern I do have is that a sequence like that maybe goes on a hair too long, and I feel like it's Spielberg's way of paying homage to this certain person that he always looked up to and saw as his hero. I'm not going to spoil too much. I'm just going to leave it at that. Um, and that's really sort of the general feeling. It makes me wonder what it would have been like if this was just a full-on video game and that was it. But as a movie as a whole, just looking at it from a critical point of view, it succeeds in terms of the connections between the characters, but as a story, it sort of gets a little disjointed in spots. In the novel, there's a sequence when Wade breaks up with the Artemis character, but it's done at a point when they've known each other and they've done things with each other. Here, that scene is in the movie, but it's not as harsh. It's not as horribly cringeworthy forced like in the book. Thank goodness for that. But the way they do it just felt strange to me. Just the delivery and the tone and the way the lines were delivered. I still think that could have been handled a little better. It was weird. Because there's a moment where after he wins the first gate, they go to this zero gravity club, and he's all like, "Oh, you're so beautiful, I love you," and she's like, "No, no, you don't know me in the real world," and they have their little breakup and stuff. But it's not as harsh as it was in the novel, and thank goodness for that. Whereas in the movie, they turn that on its head a little bit. I'm not going to say how, but it goes in an entirely different scenario, which gets to the point of having our main character actually meet up with the real life counterparts of these people that he's friends with and stuff. And in a way, it feels a little rushed. For a 2 hour and 20-minute movie, it's weird. I feel like so much stuff flies by. Even the opening logos are on like rewind. It's weird. I was almost tempted to run up to the projectionist and said, "What's going on here with the film rate? It doesn't look right." Um, but I really feel like there could have been a tad more time spent with some of these other characters, because when the Wade character meets up with these other incarnations of these people that he's met online and is like, "Oh my goodness, you look like this. Oh my goodness, you're this young. Oh my goodness, you look like that." I feel like there should have been more of a reaction to that. It's a little bit of a nitpick, but I feel like there should have been more emotional weight to it. But even then, I can excuse that just for the first bulk of the movie, where it sets up the environment, it sets up the world and these characters and who they are, and it's a touch expositionary, but I still think it somehow works. There's moments when they have to explain things, and then there's moments where they don't have to completely explain things. They just do it on a visual medium. There's a really clever scene when they talk about how they can, dress up as different characters and people in this really funny gag, which I'm not going to ruin, but it's in a very visual way, and in a sense, I kind of wish there was more of that. I wish there was more visual telling instead of narration explanation. But again, that's just a nitpick. When they go through the game system, it's actually kind of creative. Again, this is in the trailer, so I can get this off my chest, so I can talk about a little bit of this. The big race sequence that they keep promoting, that's now like the first way to get like the first key and everything. In the book, it was complex. Like, you had to find out where the key was hidden, and then you would go through this little thing resembling where the key is, and then you'd play a video game in connection to the key, and then you'd get said key, and there'd be a clue for you to go to this gate, and you'd go through the gate, and you'd be either role-playing a video game or a movie. In the book, I think you role-play war games. This is not in the movie, so I can at least talk about this. The way it was set up was, in order to get the first key, you had to go through this Dungeons and Dragons kind of thing, and then you would play Joust with a wizard. That's how silly it gets. And then afterwards, the gate would be hidden somewhere, and you go off and find it, and you'd role play Matthew Broderick's character in war games. Um, and then I think afterwards you play this other video game in order to find the next key, and then from there you go to this planet that looks like the factory from Blade Runner, and you'd role play like this little warrior dude, and at the end you win a robot for free. And then the third gate, if I remember correctly, because I was breezing through, um, you have to like play this Rush song or something like that. The way they do it in the movie, I thought was surprisingly better. I thought it was actually really well done. For the things they change up and twist around, it starts to add its own set of twists and turns and uh, story elements, which work so well. And if you haven't read the book, I think you'll be fine. And if you have read the book, I think it'll be alright. They do a good job. It's an adaptation. They're gonna change things around. They're gonna eliminate things here and there to quicken the pace and get to this point and get to that point. And yeah, I wish there was more character development. And they do change things around. If you haven't read the story, there are things they do hint at which could have been explained a little better. But again, I can excuse that because this was as fun as, say, Jurassic Park or The Goonies. It's really just this little fun blockbuster ride. And I think bringing it out now before the other summer blockbusters, this is where it's going to get interesting, because I do wonder how this will hold up for the rest of the year, because we have so many other films coming out. We have a new Affinity. We have a new, sorry, not Affinity. We have, crap. We have the new Avengers movie coming up. We have the Rampage film. Again, another video game adaptation. That's wonderful. All these other summer blockbusters coming out. The Ocean's 8 reboot. Solo. It just makes you wonder how this one is going to stack up to those others, considering how early it came out. I guess, depending on the box office pointers, we're just going to have to wait and see. That's the only recommendation I do have. But for what it is, I'm glad with what I saw. It was a blast. Would I watch this again? Yes, I definitely would. I'd recommend this over the book any day, to be honest. It's about as good as we're gonna get to having a really good video game movie. I think that's just the best way to put it. And with the whole, Gamergate kind of stuff, they do improve upon things. They do make you feel like these people act like a team and work together. They're not individuals and, all for one and one for all. They actually do band together and help each other out, especially near the ending sequence. And there's just so much to talk about, but I don't want to spoil it. You're just gonna have to go and see it. It is what it is. I'm trying to think, how would you improve it? Maybe add a few more scenes with them sort of getting adjusted and connecting to their real world counterparts or something like that. But I think this is as good as an adaptation it will just simply be. There are some really fun moments that I definitely enjoyed, like that giant museum going into Holidays, the creator of the Oasis. They have like this whole museum-like thing where this robot butler is touring around these different memories and stuff, and it's actually kind of funny and neat. And I like how they use that to its best advantage. And like I said, they do change things around from the book, which I think are for the best, and they definitely add... They definitely had some interesting connections in the story, just the way they play them out, and they do add their own different turns. So at least it's something that can survive on its own. It's a straightforward adaptation that can work just fine as it is. And I knew from the get-go this was going to be an enjoyable film, just based on Spielberg's credentials, because he's taken books before which have really harsh and mean characters and have turned them into at least, ones that are fun and memorable. Jaws, for example. the whole town was just very nihilistic and very cynical. So when they knew about the shark, they're like, no, no, we got to keep the beaches open. We got to keep the beaches open. In the movie version, they changed it up a little bit, so it's more of a little conspiracy with the mayor and stuff wants to cover this up because he wants big business. Same thing with Jurassic Park. They have these very cynical-esque kind of characters, and in the movie, they're sort of different. They're changed up a bit. And this is why I think the BFG didn't work. Because there was an adaptation before then, the Cosgrove Hall one from the late 80s, and that was fine as it was. It knew how to explain things right off the bat, right off the fly. It knew how to change things around when it needed to. And the ending was different, but I think it worked especially for the best. Or else with the Spielberg version, which is not a horrible adaptation, there are still some things I do like with that one. I felt like there were moments where they could have gone a little more darker and brutal and any which way you could. Um, I think this. I think when Spielberg does these kind of books, the ones that have promise, have something, and need at least more improvement, I think he works better with these kinds of things. Um, so that's really all I got to say left. It's going to be out this Easter weekend. It's probably going to be the best Easter egg hunt of your life, just picking out which characters and stuff like that. This definitely warrants a lot of replay value just for the sheer fun of it, and to be like, oh yeah, they got this guy, oh yeah, they... It was interesting seeing how they had these little things in the background, which are kind of neat and cool. I know during the big car race scene, there's a theater that's showing Jack Slater 3 from Last Action Hero. That was actually kind of funny. Um, yeah, that's all I got. So definitely check it out. And until then, happy Easter, everybody.